What's up YouTube, it's Ryan from AnnihilatorMTG here, and I'm back again with some more Modern. This week we're going to be playing some Blue Moon. Modern Horizons 2 has brought some very useful tools to this archetype that not only increases its power, but also makes it quite consistent. The first card that we should likely talk about is Counterspell. Obviously Counterspell is great, but really what makes this card so good is just how consistent it is. Cards like Mana Leak and Remand tend to wane in their usefulness as the game goes on, Mana Leak especially, but not with Counterspell. This card won't solve all of your problems, but when it comes to unconditional 2-mana counters, look no further. Next up, we have Murktide Regent. As I discussed in my Mono Blue Delver video, this card is an all-star. Having a high-power flyer that can close out games behind a Blood Moon is an incredible asset. Not to mention, with the cantrips and fetches we're running, it is surprisingly easy to cast. A card I've yet to discuss on this channel is Fire and Ice. The flexibility of this card is kind of insane. Sometimes it feels like a time walk, and other times it's the removal that you need for your opponent's threat. Regardless of what you need at the time, having all of those options glued to a single card feels fantastic. I also want to give a special shout out to Archmage's Charm. This card eats Kaldra for breakfast. I've seen so many players lock themselves out of games because they didn't account for the charm. This card is quickly becoming one of my favorites in the format. Blue Moon is always a joy to play, so let's not waste any time here and head straight into the first match. Okay, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend, and this hand seems good enough. We'll keep it. I think that having double Fire and Ice on the play could prove to be quite useful, especially in a tempo game. Let's start things off with a Flooded Strand, and we'll see what our opponent's playing. They play a tapped Godless Shrine, and not much else. Let's crack our fetch land during their end step. I think we're gonna grab a Steam Vents. That'll come in tapped as well. We draw Jace, that's fine, I suppose. We'll jam the island, and wait till their upkeep. Let's cast Ice, giving us a pseudo Time Walk. Up next, they play a basic Plains, and once again they pass. Good stuff. We draw another land, might as well play it. During their upkeep, we'll crack the fetch, getting an island. Then we'll cast the Ice, targeting the Godless Shrine. Geez, we just keep drawing lands. They play a Concealed Courtyard, then they evoke a copy of Grief, exiling a Vindicate. No doubt they'll be taking the Jace. Indeed they do, then they pass. We draw a Lightning Bolt, at least it's not a land. Let's play the Scalding Tarn in the meantime, see what else they got. They cast a Voidwalker, seemingly missing a land drop in the process. That seems manageable. During their end step, we'll cast a Lightning Bolt, targeting the Voidwalker. The bolt gets exiled. Then we'll crack the fetch, grabbing a Steam Vents. That'll come in tapped. Getting major deja vu here as we draw another Lightning Bolt. Let's play the island. Speaking of which, our opponent does the exact same thing, casting another Voidwalker. We'll bolt this one during their end step as well. Finally, we draw some action in the form of a Murktide Regent. Let's play a land, then we'll cast it. Here's hoping we can dodge some removal. They evoke another copy of Grief, this time exiling a Voidwalker. In response, we'll cast the Lightning Bolt, targeting their face. The Grief dies, getting nothing, but then it looks like they have a Solitude, exiling a Stoneforge Mystic. Oh boy. The Regent gets exiled, and we go up to 22 life. And wouldn't you know it, their last card is another Stoneforge Mystic. Wow, what a hand. They grab a Kaldra, gonna have to get really lucky to get out of this one. Well, that's a start. We draw Snapcaster. Let's play our land, then we'll cast him, targeting the Lightning Bolt. Let's hit the Stoneforge. Up next, they cast a copy of Dam, targeting our Snapcaster Mage. This is getting grindy. That seems to be all they have. We draw another land, figures. We'll play it, and then we'll send it back. They cast another Stoneforge Mystic? You gotta be kidding. I think that's their third. This time they find a Batterskull. Let's crack our fetch during their end step, grabbing a Steam Vents. We draw another Snap. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to target in the yard. Things aren't looking too good for us. During their main phase, they activate the Stoneforge, jamming the Kaldra. Here we go. They swing in for 5. That takes us down to 16. We draw an Archmage's Charm. Now hold on a minute. This might just work out. We can steal the Germ since it costs 0. The main issue will be dealing with their Batterskull paired with their other removal. Well, we'll have to see. They untap and move straight to combat. Let's cast the Charm, targeting the Germ token. It resolves. Excellent. We draw Thought Scour. Not bad. Let's cast it. Drawing another one. We'll cast that one too. We see a counter. Let's swing in. That'll take them down to 12 life. During our end step, they activate the Stoneforge, jamming the Batterskull. They untap and then swing in. In response, we'll flash out the Snapcaster, targeting the Charm, attempting to steal the other Germ token. They bounce the Batterskull in response. That buys us a ton of time. We see an Urborg, and then they pass. We draw Cryptic Command. That might actually do it. Let's swing in with a team. That'll take them down to 5. Alright, moment of truth. Let's see what happens. They play a tap Shambling Vent. Then we see another Voidwalker. Let's counter it. They send it back, and we draw another counter. Let's swing in, threatening lethal. Before blocks, they activate the Stoneforge, jamming the Batterskull. Still before blocks, let's cast the Cryptic Command, choosing Bounce, Draw, and targeting their equipment. And they scoop it up. Nice. Wow, that was tense. So I'm not entirely sure what I want to sideboard here. I think we're going to start things off by cutting a Blood Moon and a Valakut Awakening. Then we'll bring in a couple of Engineered Explosives. Yeah, that should be fine. We'll submit. This hand seems good enough. We'll keep it. They get things rolling with a Concealed Courtyard, and then they evoke a Grief, exiling a Vanishing Verse. There goes the Snapcaster. Before the Grief dies, they cast a Malakir Rebirth. Strong stuff from our opponent here. When the Grief comes back, they take the Opt. Honestly, that's annoying, but if we can answer the body, we should be fine. We draw Steam Vents. Not really what we're looking for. Let's play the Flooded Strand, and we'll hold up the cantrip. Up next, they play basic Plains, then they swing in. That takes us down to 17. Yikes, and they cast a Stoneforge. Let's crack our fetch in response, grabbing an island. Then we'll jam a Thought Scour, drawing a Cryptic. Their Stoneforge resolves, finding a sword. We have quite a bit of catching up to do, as we draw a Counterspell. Too little too late on that one. Let's play the Scalding Tarn, then I guess we'll hold up the counter. They play a fetch as well, then they move into combat, swinging in for 3. That takes us down to 13. During their end step, we'll crack our fetch for another island. We draw Thought Scour. Let's play it. Drawing a Lightning Bolt. Okay, that might work. Let's play the mountain and hope they don't get another land. During our end step, they crack their fetch, grabbing a Godless Shrine. Then they activate the Stoneforge Mystic. We see the sword. Looks like they found themselves a Horizon land. This is very bad. They go to equip the sword to the Grief. Let's respond by hitting it with a Lightning Bolt. It dies. Then they equip the Stoneforge Mystic, swinging in for 3 and getting a sword trigger. That takes us down to 7. We draw a Blood Moon, which might as well be blank. Let's play Steam Vents untapped. Now we gotta hold up the Cryptic. We'll let them swing in. Once the Stoneforge is tapped, we'll bounce the sword and draw a card, finding an Opt. That takes us down to 4. Oddly enough, they choose not to recast the sword. We draw another Opt. Let's cast one, putting that on the bottom. Ooh, and we draw a Fire and Ice. Perfect. Let's cast the Fire, targeting the Stoneforge Mystic. Then we'll play an untapped Steam Vents and hold up the counter. Looks like they're hard passing. We won't flinch here. Drawing another counter. Alright, that's fine. Let's cast the Blood Moon. They float a ton of mana. Then they cast a Vanishing Verse. Let's counter it. Make that 2. Guess they got us there. Up next, they replay the sword. That appears to be all. We draw a Snapcaster Mage. Think we're gonna hold up our spells. First things first, they cast an Inquisition. We'll counter it. They pass. Let's cast an Opt. Seeing a Spell Snare. Why not? Drawing a Murktide Regent. Excellent. Let's cast the 8/8. During our end step, they evoke a Solitude, exiling an Ephemerate. That brings us all the way back up to 10. Then we see a Malakir Rebirth. Let's flash out the Snap, targeting the Lightning Bolt and hitting the Solitude. They play another Horizon land, and then they jam a Skyclave, exiling the Snapcaster Mage and then equipping the sword. Back to square one as we draw another fetch. Let's play it. Gonna take a miracle to win from here. They swing in immediately, getting a sword trigger. That brings us all the way down to 4. Then they cast a Ley Line. That's fine, I guess. We'll fetch in response, grabbing an island. We draw ourselves a Sulfur Falls, and we're toast. Okay, so as it turns out, we are in fact very dumb and forgot about the Abrades in the sideboard. Embarrassing as that may be, we'll take out the explosives and bring in the Abrades. That looks much better, so we'll submit and try it again. This hand looks tremendous, if a little land light. Either way, we'll keep it. Seems like they went down to 5. They must really be looking for those ley lines. Let's start things off with a Flooded Strand and see what they got. They lead with a Shambling Vent. That appears to be it. I think between that and the mulligans, we're in a deceptively good position. Let's crack the fetch during the end step, grabbing a tapped Steam Vents. We draw Scalding Tarn. Excellent. Let's jam it, cracking it for a basic island. During their upkeep, let's cast the ice, targeting their Shambling Vent, and we draw Blood Moon. Up next, they play a Marsh Flats, although I doubt they have a 1-drop, as they pass straight through. We draw an Opt. Now, we could jam the Blood Moon right away, but that doesn't stop them from leveraging the Stoneforge. With that in mind, I think we're just going to play the island and send it back. They crack their fetch during their main phase, finding a Plains, as expected. Then we see a Stoneforge Mystic. Now, we could counter this, but I think we're just going to hold for now. And I don't believe this, but they fail to find as they play a basic. This means that likely 3 out of their 4 cards in hand are equipment, and that is not good for them. Either way, let's bolt the Stoneforge, then we'll cast an Opt, drawing a Scalding Tarn, then we draw another island, let's play it, and now we wait. They play an untapped Godless Shrine, and then they cast a Thoughtseize. That's actually pretty decent. We'll respond with a Counterspell, that way we save the Snapcaster, and despite having a sword in hand, they do nothing else. We draw Murktide Regent, here we go. Let's play and crack the fetch, grabbing an untapped Steam Vents, then we'll cast the Regent, it resolves, and I think it's also safe to jam the Blood Moon. Now, even if they had a Vanishing punishing verse in hand, they have 2 high priority targets instead of 1. Up next, they play a Concealed Courtyard into a very late sword. We draw an opt. Let's attack for 7. That'll take them down to 10. They seem to be passing straight through as we draw another Abrade. We'll attack once again, bringing them all the way down to 3. And I guess that's enough. They scoop it up. GG's. Alright, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand looks good enough. We'll keep it. Seems like we're playing against a Yorion build. Let's start things off with a Scalding Tarn. They play a Celestial Colonnade. That'll come in tapped. We're always thankful for a slow start. During their end step, we'll crack the Scalding Tarn, grabbing a Steam Vent. That'll come in tapped as well. We draw another Fire and Ice. This is quite the tempo hand. Let's play an island, then we'll wait till their upkeep. After they untap, we'll cast the ice, drawing another fetch. Up next, they play a Flooded Strand and pass immediately. We draw Jace, not bad. Let's play the Scalding Tarn, holding up our counters. During our end step, they crack their fetch. We'll do the same, grabbing an island. They find a Triome. We see a Blast Zone. During their end step, let's cast the Charm, see if they counter it. In response, they flash out a Spell Queller, no problem. We have a Lightning Bolt after all. We untap, drawing a Snapcaster Mage. Let's jam the Bolt. That gets us our spell back. We draw 2, finding a fetch and a Blood Moon. Oh boy. Let's play and crack the fetch, grabbing a Steam Vents, and jam the Blood Moon. It resolves, and their mana situation is in shambles. All they can do is put the Yorion into hand, fine by me. We draw an opt. I think we're just gonna pass for now. They miss their land drop once again. Let's cast the opt during the end step. We see a mountain. Let's put that on the bottom, drawing a fetch, and they discard a resto. Up next, we see a Thought Scour. We'll play the land, then cast the Jace. We likely should have just jammed it last turn. Either way, let's uptick, taking it out of bolt range, just in case. Looks like they've got a Skyclave on top. That's fine. They draw it, and immediately scoop it up. Nice. Alright, so sideboarding against some blue-white variant, we've got a good amount of options. I think what I want to do first is lower the curve by cutting the Cryptics and bringing in the Disputes. We could cut the Moons, but those pretty much won us game 1. With that said, if they adjust, we'll cut the Moons instead and bring back the Cryptics for game 3. Either way, we'll submit. In terms of early game strength, this hand is about as good as it gets, definitely keeping this one. They lead off with a Flooded Strand, that appears to be it. As is tradition, we draw another land, let's play it. They crack their fetch for a basic island, no doubt avoiding the Blood Moon. Then we see a basic Plains, right into a Stoneforge Mystic. It resolves, and they find a sword. Let's crack the fetch, grabbing an untapped Steam Vents. Then we'll bolt the Stoneforge, beautiful. We draw Sulfur Falls, getting a little bit flooded here. Let's play a basic, and we'll hold up our spells. They jam a Field of Ruin. During their end step, let's cast the Thought Scour, drawing a Murktide Regent. Now we're getting somewhere. Then we see a Snapcaster. Let's play the Flooded Strand, and I still think we should hold for now. During our end step, they activate the field, targeting the Steam Vents. We grab an island, as do they. Up next, they play Replacement Field, not so sure how much that's gonna matter. Let's crack the Flooded Strand, grabbing a tapped Steam Vents. Then we draw Counterspell. The abundance of basics aside, I actually think we're in a pretty good position here. We'll play the Sulfur Falls, enticing them to use the field, and they do, both of us grabbing islands. I almost don't believe it, but they play a third field. We've got a ton of basics though, so we should be fine. During their end step, we'll flash out a Snap, see if we can get them to bite. They do not. Let's target the opt, then cast it, seeing a fetch, sure. During our upkeep, they decide to crack the field, targeting our Sulfur Falls. Let's grab a mountain. They get a Plains, drawing another Murktide Regent. We'll play the land, then we'll swing in for 2, taking them down to 17. Weirdly enough, they cast a Spell Queller during our end step, choosing not to block with it. Now that's a bit strange. In response, we'll cast a Mystical Dispute. The Queller fizzles. Looks like they're passing straight through. We'll crack the Scalding Tarn, grabbing an island. We draw an Archmage's Charm. That's pretty darn good. Let's jam the island, then move into combat, attacking for 2. During our end step, they flash out a Venser. I don't think we actually care about that. They bounce our mountain, then they untap and swing in for 2. We'll take the damage. During their end step, let's cast the Charm, attempting to draw 2. In response to that, they flash out a Restoration Angel, which when paired with a Venser can be quite annoying. We've got no choice but to respond with a counter. They let it fizzle, kinda surprised about that. Then we draw 2, finding a fetch and an opt. Then we see a Thought Scour. Let's play the Scalding Tarn, cracking it and getting an island. We'll cast a modest Murktide Regent, then swing in for 2. We could cast the second, but if they have a Supreme Verdict, we're going to be in a horrible spot. So I think we have to pass. During their main phase, they cast a Sword of Fire and Ice. Let's respond with a Counterspell. They do the same. Little light on options here, so let's cast the opt. We see a Valakut Awakening. We'll bottom that. Then we draw another opt. Unfortunately, the sword will resolve, but on the bright side, they don't actually have the mana to equip it right now. Let's cast the Thought Scour, drawing into another land. Then we see a Blood Moon. That is not good. Let's cast the Opt. We see a Thought Scour. I think we'll bottom that. Then we draw Charm. That's pretty good. We'll play the fetch and then swing in. That takes him down to 5. Then cast the Murktide Regent. And like idiots, we completely forgot about the second ability. Punt of the year right there. Either way, let's try to keep it together. They go to equip the sword, then swing in, hitting the Snapcaster Mage with the sword trigger. And it looks like they've had enough. Sorry about the punt there, opponent. GG's. Alrighty, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand definitely looks keepable. It's got a nice curve, although we are a little bit top-heavy. Either way, we'll keep it. Let's start things off with an untapped Steam Vents, see what our opponent's playing. They lead off with the Mishra's Bauble, cracking it immediately, targeting themselves. Then we see a fetch, and they pass. In response to their Bauble trigger, they crack their fetch, finding themselves an untapped Steam Vents. We draw Scalding Tarn. Excellent. Let's play it, and then we'll hold up our spells. This is a pretty comfortable start for sure. Them not playing a threat on turn 1 gives us a ton of breathing room. Up next, they play a Spirabluff Canal, and once again they pass. This is a very tame start for what I assume is a prowess variant. Let's crack the fetch during their end step, finding ourselves a basic. Then we draw another Lightning Bolt. More removal never hurts. We'll play the Sulfur Falls and continue to hold. Up next, they cast a pretty late Ragavan. I think what we're going to do is attempt to steal it with the Archmage's Charm. Unfortunately, they respond with a copy of Dive Down. The charm fizzles. We draw an island right on time. Let's play it. Then we'll cast a Sorcery Speed Lightning Bolt, hitting their dude. It dies. During their main phase, they cast an Expressive Iteration into a Thought Scour. They're pretty set up at this point, so we're going to have to be mindful of any potential Murktide Regents. We draw an Opt. Let's cast it. Seeing a Counterspell. Think we're going to put that on the bottom. We draw an Island. Excellent. Let's play it. I don't think it's time for Jace just yet, so we're going to hold off for now. They start things off with a Channeler. Then they play an untapped Steam Vents, followed up by a Murktide Regent. Let's bait out any interaction by responding with a Lightning Bolt. They cast one of their own. That takes us down to 14. Once the bolt resolves, we'll counter the Regent. That worked out nicely. We draw Snapcaster. Now that their hand is a bit lighter, we'll cast the Jace. Think we're going to uptick to take him out of bolt range. We see a fetch. Beautiful. Up next, they cast an Expressive Iteration. Then they play a fetch, cracking it for an island. Then we see a Serum Visions. And finally, they cast a Murktide Regent. With a Jace on board, that's hardly an issue. In fact, them delving away their yard actively helps us. We draw Thought Scour. Let's bounce the Regent, and we'll send it back. Looks like they're just going to pass straight through. During their end step, let's cast the Thought Scour, drawing an Opt. This is super greedy, but I think we're going to cast that as well. And we're immediately punished as they respond with an Unholy Heat. Alright, let's tighten up the bolts here. We see an Archmage's Charm. Definitely want that. Let's cast it. Interesting, they respond with a copy of Spell Pierce. This means even if we responded to the Unholy Heat, they would have had us. Even so, the Charm fizzles. We draw Steam Vents. Let's play it. Here's hoping their hand isn't too good. They start things off by casting a Murktide Regent, exiling most of their graveyard in the process. In response, we'll cast the Cryptic, choosing Counter Draw. Looks like they came prepared as they respond with a Counterspell. That means the Regent's gonna resolve. Luckily, we still do have the Snapcaster, so that should buy us some time at the very least. Even better, we draw into a Jace. Let's cast him. Then we'll bounce their dude, and we're pretty much back to where we started. Up next, they cast another Expressive Iteration, playing a land, and then bolting the Jace. Very unfortunate. Followed up by a Mishra's Bauble, which they crack immediately. For what feels like the 50th time, they replay their Murktide Regent. We draw fetch, let's play it, then we'll crack it, finding an island, jamming the Snapcaster and targeting the Cryptic. Let's bounce the Regent and draw a card, finding another Snap, that'll do. They play and crack a Bauble, then we see a Spirabluff, followed up by a very weak Murktide Regent. As ridiculous as this game has been, I do feel like we're making progress. Ooh, and we draw a Blood Moon, excellent. Let's cast it. This cuts them off double blue. Then we'll play the Snapcaster, targeting the Lightning Bolt and hitting the Regent. We can finally get aggressive as we swing in for 2. That takes him down to 12. Up next, they play a Chandler. Then we see another one. That could be very bad. We draw a counter. I don't think they can afford to block here, so we're going to swing in with a team. That takes him down to 8. So now we just need to avoid them getting Delirium. They swing in without casting anything. That's very surprising. That takes us down to 9. Then we draw another land. Let's swing in once again. This game feels very much up in the air at this this point. They cast a lightning bolt, but more importantly, they bin nothing. What's odd here is they targeted our Snapcaster Mage, and to me that seems like bait, so I think we have to let it resolve. Swinging in for another 2, that takes us down to 7. We draw another blank in the form of a Blood Moon, might as well cast it. Then we swing in, taking them down to 2. Man, what a draw. They untap and cast another lightning bolt. To add insult to injury, they even managed to get Delirium. Let's counter the bolt, and what the heck? They just scoop it up. That seems very hasty to me. Yeah, holy cow, if they just played it out, they would have won. So in this matchup, we'll trim the Spell Snare, the Valakut Awakening, the Blood Moons, and the Cryptics. Then we'll bring in the Soul Guide Lanterns, the Aether Gusts, and the Mystical Disputes. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We'll submit. This hand is light on turn 1 interaction, but other than that, it's quite strong. I think we'll keep. As is tradition, they start things off with a Mishra's Bauble, cracking it immediately. Then they play a Fiery Islet and cast a Ragavan. Yep, that's pretty good. We draw Snapcaster, so they're at the very least going to get 1 trigger off their dude. Let's jam the fetch, see what the damage is. They play a Scalding Tarn, then swing in, exiling a Snapcaster. Let's see if they cast it. They crack their fetch, grabbing an island, then they cast the Snap. I don't want to get our hopes up here, but there is a chance that we can get a 2-for-1 off the fire. During their end step, we'll crack the fetch, grabbing a tap Steam Vents. We draw an island, let's play it. Alright, moment of truth, we'll cast the fire, targeting both creatures, and it resolves. Beautiful. We aren't out of the woods just yet, but that helps us a great deal. During their main phase, they cast a Thought Scour, which makes me worry about Murktide Regent. Then they cast a Bauble, cracking it immediately, playing another island, and seemingly they just pass. Dumb luck or not, I think we're stabilizing. We see another fetch, let's play it. Then we'll hold up our spells. Up next, they play an islet, casting another copy of Ragavan. Let's crack the fetch, grabbing an island, and once again we'll try to steal their dude. Never didn't have it, I guess, as they respond with a dive down. The charm fizzles. We draw a counter, that's excellent. Let's play the Sulfur Falls, and wait for their attack. As expected, they swing it immediately. We'll respond with an Aether Gust. They cast a Counterspell. Sounds like a good idea, we'll do the same. The stack resolves, and the Ragavan is gone. Now we gotta see if they're gonna commit to the recast. That seems to be the case. They jam a flip land and crack an islet. Here comes the monkey. We draw another counter. Let's play the fetch and crack it immediately, grabbing an island. We'll cast the Snap, targeting the charm, attempting to steal the Ragavan, and it resolves. Nice. During their main phase, they crack their islet. Then we see a Spiral Bluff, casting an Unholy Heat, targeting the stolen Ragavan. Fine by me. They pass, and we draw Thought Scour. Let's cast the Jace. They respond with a Force of Negation, so now their hand is empty. Let's attack. That takes them down to 13. They draw another Spiral Bluff. We're in a great position. Let's cast the Thought Scour, drawing another land. Then we see a Mystical Dispute. Not bad. We'll play the land, then swing in. Wow, when they draw a third Spiral Bluff. Might as well crack the fetch, grabbing a Steam Vents. We draw a Lightning Bolt. Let's attack once again. They untap and then do nothing. Have to assume they have some form of interaction. Drawing a Murktide Regent. That might do it. Let's swing in. Then we cast it. In response, they play a counter. We'll do the same. The Regent resolves, and they scoop it up. GG's. And there you have it. Blue Moon has really evolved into something quite compelling. A part of me does wonder if we want to run some number of Prismari commands or Braids in the main board. Things are getting a little crazy out there, so it might not be a bad idea. Either way, this deck is awesome. I've got a quick channel announcement. Next week, I'm going to be insanely busy, so unfortunately, I don't think I'll have time to put out a video. After that, things should be back to normal, so I appreciate your patience. If you enjoy my content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. This stuff really does help, so thank you. And as always, stay safe out there and have a good one.